Welcome to the Michigan Football Junkies podcast. I'm Jeremy Miller, and this is Mr. Marcus Denton joining me.
Good afternoon, folks.
How are you?
I am okay, sir. Just enjoying this beautiful white weather that we have here with the snow. Um,
Oh,
my
it is
favorite
kind of a
time.
whiteout.
Yes, it is. Favorite time of the year.
Well, we had to go back over and re-record this. We actually recorded this before the Kirk Campbell news had broke. So Kirk Campbell now the new quarterback coach for the Michigan Wolverines. Now a little bit about him. He was an analyst at Penn State for a few years, then took a job at Old Dominion. Old Dominion didn't play in the 2020 season. Kirk Campbell was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach in the 2021 season. How did he do? He took that job and they scored 12 more points than in the 2019 season after missing the entire 2020 season. Don't forget, all the football players took the whole year off. There was no practicing, there was no nothing. Michigan, even though we played terribly, we still at least got those few games in and they were able to practice. So they had an entire season off. And then he had a freshman quarterback in the 2021 season and they scored 12 more points a game and 110 more yards per game than they did in the previous season. He was let go at the end of the season, which the following year, 2022, Old Dominion scored over 9 points less per game. He was hired on as an analyst in 2022 at Michigan, and he must have made an impression on J.J. McCarthy because, from what I hear, JJ was a little bit outspoken. I'm not saying he was like in there like banging on the tables, but he made it clear who he would like to be the next quarterback coach. He knew Campbell, liked Campbell, and he is now the new quarterback coach. I think that's also going to be a benefit as far as with Jaden Davis because the Davis family is close with the McCarthy family. So if JJ liked this guy, it's a good chance that Jaden is going to be okay with this guy as well. And from what I hear, Campbell is actually going to be an improvement on the recruiting trail. Now he's still Weiss was obviously not a recruiting genius or some phenom or anything like that. So that's going to be nice, and that's actually something that could really help, especially getting these dominoes to start falling. We've all been seeing all these four-star athletes that have been to Michigan numerous times. Jaden Davis is a five-star. If we get him, I think it's just dominoes. You've got Amarian Stewart, Jacob Bowden, who is committing today. He's a four-star defensive back. He's going to be committing to Michigan. There's everybody's crystal balls have are in on Michigan. Ben Roebuck, he's been there numerous times. Brian Robinson. There's so many different guys that have just came up to visit numerous times. All we need is one of these dominoes to fall. Tom Brady retired, greatest of all time. Nobody can even. I used to be a Joe Montana guy, but he did it in a different era. Tom did it with nobody as his wide receivers for most of his career. Since Tom retired, some Tom stories get brought out. I saw one that I had to share because it was amazing. So Tom, when he was still playing for Michigan, he's driving back to Ann Arbor and he decides he wants to stop off in South Bend. He wants to see the Notre Dame Stadium. He's got to play there in a couple months, and he thought, you know what? I'm just going to stop off. I want to see it. So he pulls up, he parks, walks up to the gate. They're locked. He starts walking around the stadium just to see, hey, is there a open gate or something someplace? Maybe I can walk in. And so he walks around, finds one open, and he sees a lock on the gate, but it's unlocked and just like hanging there. So Tom takes the lock, locks it, and keeps it. So that way nobody can lock him out, or lock him in, rather. That way nobody can lock him in. So Tom walks in, he's kind of creeping around because he sees the no trespassing signs, which is clearly trespassing. And he starts walking around, and he finally into the stadium, walks all the way to the top, walks all the way down, stands on the sideline that Michigan's going to be on, looks up at touchdown Jesus, decides, okay, I've seen enough. He starts walking out, and he sees the gate has been locked. Someone still came back through and used the lock from a gate over and combined it with the current gate and locked them both. So Tom's locked in, and he sees, I can make it up this way. I can jump over the wall. He's like, am I going to break my ankle? He's like, which is worse, to get arrested or wind up on ESPN for breaking into Notre Dame Stadium, or which is worse, ESPN or breaking my ankle? Well, he starts looking around, finds some ladder that's secured to a wall. He starts beating it with a sledgehammer to get it off the wall. Gets that, takes it back over to the gate, climbs the gate, hops down, runs to his car, drives out of South Bend faster than he said he's ever driven before, and just thankful that he didn't get arrested that day. I just thought that was an amazing story, and I had to tell it. I say we kick it off with some more recruiting news. What do you think?
Awesome, man. I mean, it was last week was definitely fun going through these guys, and I'm looking forward to this group we have today. So yeah, let's do
All right. Excuse me. Who would you like to kick it off with first?
it. Well, I tell you what, Benjamin Hall, running back, big kid, 5'10", 225, out of Georgia, early enrollee, 3-star recruit. Let's get started with him. I'm very excited. Very excited about it.
Yeah, actually, the nice thing is all the recruits, mgoblue.com, they already have like their new heights and weights already listed, because obviously
Mm-hmm.
they're going to get bigger and stronger throughout the
Of
year.
course.
And Benjamin Hall is now 235 pounds. A lot of people were
Wow.
down on him because of he didn't have the greatest senior year, but they also
Mm-hmm.
have other players there, other running backs there that were ahead of Benjamin Hall. They're a better back. But as good as he has looked in his highlights, the one thing a lot of people have to remember is he is playing Georgia 7A football. That's some of the toughest
Mm-hmm.
high school football in the country. But
Exactly.
I liked how he looked. I thought he looked pretty light on his feet, but he's adding more weight, and I think he's going to end up being like a battering ram for us. What's your thoughts on him?
Well, I tell you, he's from the film I've watched on him, he's real shifty in the backfield. I mean, I
Mhm.
saw something where he's able to hit the edge and just take it to the house. So I mean, I totally agree. I think he's going to be one of those. I don't know if he's going to be like every down back, but definitely when you get in those close to the close to the goal line situations, you want somebody to be able to put the head down and bang it in there. So yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I
I like
agree. I
him.
think he's definitely going to be a short yardage back at some point. And to be honest, it could be as early as this year. I mean, let's say it's a 1 yard touchdown or a 1 yard, it's 3rd and 1 against Indiana. You're probably still going to go with Corum, but there's going to be times where why not throw in Mullings or Ben Hall or even CJ Stokes, because Stokes is not a small guy. I could see Benjamin Hall being
Mhm.
a short yardage back as early as probably 2024, because
Mhm.
after Edwards and Corum are gone, it's only Stokes, Javier Dunlap, Khalil Mullins, because he's made the full switch to running back. Thank God, because he
Right.
can't play running linebacker. Uh, and Benjamin Hall. That's it. Oh, and then obviously Cole Cabana. But right there, I mean, even CJ Stokes, he's a good sized guy. I just think, when it comes to like 2024, that's when you're probably going to see him being used as that
Mhm.
short yardage back, the thunder and lightning with him and Cole Cabana.
Right, right.
Well,
Yeah.
next up, I got Cameron Calhoun. He's 6 foot,
Mm-hmm.
175 pounds. He's a cornerback, but my question is this: I want to know who rated this guy a 3 star, because when I watch his film, when I watch Cameron Calhoun, I think he looks like Will Johnson without the offensive skill. He's not quite as fast as Will Johnson, but the rest of his defensive profile, the way I'm watching him on the field, he looks like Will Johnson. And I want to know, how did he only get a 3 star rating?
You
I
know,
just don't see it. I don't know how this guy, Cameron Calhoun, got a 3 star rating. A 6 foot, 175 pound cornerback with good ball skills.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I don't get it. I mean, this guy could potentially be in the 2 deep this year.
mm-hmm.
And he's not even our best cornerback that we got in this recruiting class.
I totally agree with you, sir. I saw something in some film again watching him, and I think actually he does have great ball instincts. I mean, I saw where he took an interception from one end zone, 105 yards back the other way, and just like he just glided like a
Mm-hmm.
true like gazelle down the field. I think his speed is very underrated. I think he's going to be a good one, definitely.
Yeah, I love his. I mean, I'm looking at Cameron Calhoun, and I say, and by the way, this is something I'm adding in. Where do I project this guy, or when do I project this guy to be a potential starter? Ben Hall, unfortunately, I don't project him to ever be a starter at Michigan. That's not to say he's not going to do anything here, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't project him to ever be the actual starter. Cameron Calhoun, I think he could be a potential starter as early as 2024,
Mm-hmm.
because we're going to start 3 cornerbacks rather, between the 2 outsides and then a nickel. And between either Cameron Calhoun or Jair Hill, I could see either one of them sliding over to where Sanistro plays, where they can blow up those screens and stuff, just like Dax Hill and Sanistro has done the last 2 years. We're going to kick it over to Eno Etta.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see on film when you watched Mr. Eno Etta?
Well, first off, he's a big boy, 6'5", 260 range there. He's out of Texas, man. And everybody knows that's a breeding ground for linemen, down there. What I saw was, first off, he's got good feet. I think he's got good feet. He matches up very well. I saw one particular thing that stood out to me that, first, he's very fast. He's faster, I think. He's faster than I think a lot of people would tend to believe. He got to the quarterback really well, scooped up a fumble one time, and just almost took it to the house. I mean, he's very agile to be as big as he is. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I loved it, definitely.
I mean, Eno was super productive. This
Mm-hmm,
is this is his stats for his high school career. Okay,
mm-hmm,
336 tackles. This is as an edge, mind you. 336 tackles, 62 and a half sacks, 10 fumble recoveries in his high school career. That's enormous. Now,
mm-hmm,
his
yes.
his competition was not that good. He plays in a private school league. I mean, he just absolutely dominates them. And this is also he's 6'5". Eno is up to 270 pounds now. In track last year, during his junior year, he ran the 100 meters in 12:5 for a guy that's 260 pounds at that time. 12:5. That that's moving. I
Mm-hmm,
look at Eno and I see kind of a cross between Mike Morris and Aiden Hutchinson, style wise.
mm-hmm,
I think he has a good bull rush. I think he has a very nice rip move, but he's definitely gonna need to learn with to play with better leverage. He does play a little high because he could just physically dominate the competition he was playing against. He didn't have to play with great leverage, and he still was bigger, faster, and stronger than all of his competition. So he could still just throw guys out of the way, but he is going to need to get down more so that way he can get up underneath somebody else's shoulder pads to be able to have that leverage and move that offensive lineman where you need him to go. Because I saw several times where he would just run into the offensive lineman and then use his arm length and push the guy off and then go around him for a sack because he does have arm length of 6'8".
Wow. Yeah.
So you're talking
Yeah.
about a guy who is toolsy. Hopefully, we see him progress at Michigan, and he could be a star for us on that defensive front. Starter projection for me, I could see him starting potentially in. This is probably a little early, 2024, but probably more likely 2025 because I am kind of basing that off of the depth chart as well. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I think that 2025, I think that's probably more realistic in that range there because, he is behind a lot of guys that have a lot of experience. And I think that him actually being able to come in and learn everything and be a contributor. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to contribute in 2024 because I think he's going to be one of those guys that is going to be able to come in spots and do some things. I do like the comparison with the Mike Morris. I see him more on the end of the Aiden Hutchinson type. Mike Morris has a great motor, but Aiden Hutchinson just has that extra gear that he goes with. And I see this guy in that same type of thing.
Next up, we have Nathan Afabi. He's a guard out of Georgia, 6'4", 295 pounds, also in that same Georgia 7A league.
Mm-hmm.
And he played mostly tackle in high school, but he's probably going to take on the guard role at Michigan. I don't see a lot of flaws in his game. I think he is a little bit underrated. He plays with really good technique. I think he has good hands. I think he's pretty light on his feet. He plays with really good technique. I'm actually surprised that Nathan Afabi is rated below Amir Herring in the 247 composite because I think I would actually flip them in my mind.
I tell you, first off, the strength of this young man. I mean, every highlight that I saw of this guy, he was ragdolling people. I mean, he was just you talking about pancaking. I mean, he was just blowing up the line and really aggressive. So I totally agree with that. I think that he is definitely underrated. I think he's someone, like you said before, with the great hands. And like I said before, I'm all about the feet. If you guys hear me here talking about the feet, I'm all about the feet in the moving because that's a big part. And I think he does a very good job at that. I mean, he's a very strong bull rusher. I like that. So, yeah.
My projection on Nathan Afabi, I'm going to say 2025 is starter projection with the depth chart that's there, possibly 2026.
You're spot on with I mean, I tend to kind of lean more to 2025, but that's because, again, it's even though, he's behind a lot of guys. I mean, that type of attitude and that type of physicality is really hard to replicate with some guys, and this guy has it naturally. So I don't know. I kind of see maybe a little earlier than that, but we'll see. Either way, I think he's going to be definitely going to be an awesome addition for sure.
When I first watched him, I actually wished that Afabi had a little bit more of a nasty streak.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I watched him, the more I don't think he needs it. He's just nasty enough, but he plays under control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we've seen as Michigan fans. We've had offensive linemen that they cannot control their emotions. And I'm looking at you, Taylor Lewan. So Taylor wanted to fight people. Taylor he just wanted to choke somebody out. I'm pretty sure he was really close to it in that Michigan State game. But Next up, we have Mr. Deacon Tonielli. So he might be a little Italian, and he's a tight end, 6'5", 230 pounds. He had 99 receptions for 1,375 yards the last 2 years as a tight end. That's not too bad. Marcus, what'd you see when you watched this tape?
I tell you what, sir, this guy here, probably out of a lot of guys we've already been through, he's the one that I'm really, really, really interested in because he is such, to me, he's one of those hybrid type of guys. I mean, he can line up. I've seen where he's lined up in the slot. I mean, he's one of those guys that can go and high point the ball. He's a tight end, but I mean, you could easily put this guy out there as a possession receiver. I think he would be someone that could blow it up really well. I like the edge that he has also. I'm really, really excited about this guy. I was just really blown away from what I saw.
A lot of people have compared him, and Harbaugh is one of them, that he compares to Colston Loveland. I think Colston Loveland is a decent comparison. I just don't think he has the same athleticism that Colston does. I think Colston just has a little bit more of that extra gear, but I can see it. It's a really good comparison for him, but I think Colston's just a little bit better. Deacon didn't play against good competition either, so he is going to have to really learn how to block. He plays a little high when he blocks, but he still has okay technique other than that, but he's just not used to playing against these bigger, stronger athletes because of the league he was in. But I think he does have really good hands. He high points the ball, and evidenced by the catch on 7 minutes and 48 seconds on his senior highlights on the Football Junkies YouTube page. He goes up and just snatches that ball with one hand.
Yes.
I could see Deacon starting as early as 2025 because you got Colston again for his sophomore year in 2023. 2024, he'll also be there. And 2023, AJ Barno will obviously be the other tight end. So he could potentially sneak in as a second tight end, but we usually don't actually start a second tight end. So I'm going to say starter projection as early as 2025.
Yeah, you're right about that. 2025. Yeah, he has raw talent. Like I said, he's a very athletic. He's a little sneaky for his athleticism. I mean, I do remember what you're talking about first, the one-handed, and then he did it and it was all in one motion. I mean, that's someone that size and going down the middle there, he was also double covered, if I'm not mistaken. And just doing that in all in one motion, man, that's really hard to do for even a lot of receivers. So
he isn't afraid of contact with the ball in the air either. That's another big thing that a lot of receivers have to get used to is getting hit when they catch the ball. Because in high school, how many times is, separation is huge. And then you see a little bit less in college and even less in the pros. So just every time you take that next step up, you have less space in between you and the defender. And so he gets hit when he catches the ball, and it doesn't phase him. He seems to still catch it very well. Next up, we have Dwan, now being called DJ Waller. He's a safety. He's 6'3", 195-pound. He was listed as an athlete on 247 and Rivals. He is going to play safety in college, so he's out of Ohio. What did you think of Mr. DJ Waller? By the way, he played on the same team as Jason Hewlett.
Mr. Waller, I saw where he played some offense also. So, I mean, it was kind of he's been that guy to kind of move around a bit. But yeah, I mean, first off, he likes to hit. This guy comes down with a wrecking ball type of shit. I mean, when he's coming at you, he comes at you angrily. Like he just has that edge to him. He changes direction very well. I mean, you see him, far as even in coverage where, good hips. I know that's a thing that we talk about hips, but I mean, the fact that he's able to snap either direction and he does it very well at the age that he's at. That's something that's instant. So I mean, I was really intrigued with that. I mean, he's a big kid. He's going to get even bigger. Picture him in the weight room, adding more pounds, adding more weight to that frame. And yeah, another line of the big body corners and safeties that are now migrating to Michigan. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean he played wide receiver last year, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
helped him with his hands.
Mm-hmm.
DJ kind of reminds me of he kind of reminds me of Keon Sabb last year, just not as fast. I agree with you that he likes to hit. He really wants to. I mean, he knifes through the offense and defense. Picking his angles, trying to get to the ball carrier. He just kind of seems to like glide through. You'll see a bunch of bodies there, and he just glides through it, and boom, makes a tackle. He's kind of just has that feel and these instincts that a lot of players don't have. I have him listed as a potential starter or projected starter as early as 2025.
Well, I see because of his athleticism, because of what he is projected to be, I would say 2024-ish, only because of the fact that when you have these type of athletes, you do tend to kind of want them to get their feet wet a little bit. I think that he's someone that can actually step in. I mean, also it goes with what you're saying first. I do see your part of the coin with that 2025, but we love to play young guys. And if he has a good, he has a good spring and he comes out, he may get a little, might be able to slip in there a little earlier than that.
Okay. It all depends on
So,
how hungry he is, right? I mean, look at Rod
exactly.
Moore of 2021. He was hungry. He came in, was like, I'm going to start. And nobody
Mm-hmm.
thought he was going to. And he was just like, excuse me, this is my spot. Let's kick it over for our last guy, Mr. Frederick Moore. He's a wide receiver out of St. Louis. He's 6'1", 175 pounds. He kind of has a Bill Bellamy. He kind of looks like a Bill Bellamy doppelganger. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Wait, does he have 6 kids yet in high school? No, just kidding. In his final 2 seasons, he had 43 touchdowns, 2,514 receiving yards. 43 touchdowns? Are they serious?
Yeah. He
I
had a lot
mean,
of all purpose in there also too. So I mean he Mr. Everything.
oh yeah. I mean he's returned punts and kicks, and I couldn't find a 40 time for Moore, but I also so he ran track, and there's a conversion that you can get where you can take the 100 meter and convert it over to a 40-yard dash. Now, it's not the most accurate thing, but it gives you a good idea. And for the most part, it's usually like overwhelmingly under a tenth of a second within the accuracy. And that put Frederick Moore at a 4.6, and I do not think that's the case. Because when you watch his film, he looks faster than that. He looks like he's running potentially 4.4.
Mm-hmm. Well, Frederick was one of those guys that really caught my eye really quickly because I mean he gets in and out of routes so well. I totally agree when you said that he's faster than 4.6. I say about 4.4. I would even maybe say without really embellishing too much, I would even tend to go lean toward 4.3 type because what I saw from him was just the fact that he's able to blow by guys. I mean, I saw where he was, I mean, man to man on him, and he's just I mean, without even a move, just ran by everyone. So I mean, I think that he's a little more faster, definitely than that 4.6. He's just someone that puts you. I'm not going to say like a Ronnie Bell, but I want to. But I think he's a little more honestly athletic than Ronnie Bell, if I can say that.
That's hilarious that you said that, because that is literally what is sitting on my computer in front of me.
Okay.
I mean, he is so much like Ronnie Bell. He
Mm-hmm.
plays so much like Ronnie Bell. The two differences I would say are exactly what you said, that he is just a little bit faster than Ronnie was. Maybe gets in and out of his break a little bit better than Ronnie did when he was in high school. But the other thing is good of a leaper as Frederick Moore is, he doesn't hold a candle to Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell But Frederick Moore, he does everything pretty good, but there's nothing that like separates him, and like he's not like extremely agile where he's just gonna be like Dante Hall or somebody like that. He's not Chris Johnson. He's not you know 6'5" like Nicholas Harbor. So he doesn't have any one thing that stands out. I just think he's gonna be a really solid receiver, and I can see him projecting as a starter as early as 2025.
He's everything, and I think even a little more than that. What you're saying, and 2025, I do see that. I do see that for him. He's going to get some. Of course, he's going to get some looks. He's going to get in there as far as a return game. I think we'll probably see him, returning for as early, even early as this upcoming season. I think he's that type of athlete. I think he's that special. And, in the long term, yeah, he's going to be another great one that we have at the University of Michigan. I'm very excited about this young man.
I can actually see him returning that. Him and probably Cole. Cole is another one I could see potentially returning some kicks and punts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, Marcus, this was great. Loved having you on again. This is really fun, and we're gonna have another one next week. We'll have the third of our 3-part recruiting series, and
Can't
then
wait.
and I think we should do a transfer one. What do you think?
You know what? I think that's a great idea. I like this series. First off, this series with the recruits, I think is so informative. And if you're a Michigan fan and you love Michigan like we do, you're definitely to tune into this and enjoy the breakdown of these players. It's a great earmark for the future of Michigan football. Looking forward to seeing where else, how far this goes. So yes, sir.
All right, Marcus, thanks for joining me today, and hope everybody has a great day. And as always, it's great.